Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1432A, and today's date is November 24th, 2017, and the title of the episode is, The Economic System is Changing Quickly. Will the U.S. be left out? Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. On Thanksgiving, I uploaded an interview with Peter Schiff. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you right to the interview. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com or NewSentinel.com site. Scroll down a little bit. You'll see it on the right-hand side. You can play the interview right on the site. Or go to Steemit at steemit.com/@X22Report. And you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we've been saying that this holiday season most likely is going to be a complete and utter disaster for retail, and it has nothing to do with online sales. I know people are going to start to bring that up, that yes, online is doing a lot better. Even if it does, and they tell you there's billions of dollars increase in online sales, remember, retail is $1 trillion business, and this is a very small fraction of the retail industry. But we can see already that stores are really getting hit, and I think this is going to get worse as time goes on. The corporate media I know is out there saying that, look at the lines on Black Friday, everything looks amazing, people are out there shopping. But again, we don't have the real numbers. All we have is the corporate media out there pushing propaganda, trying to get the everyday person out there to shop. But we see right now that J.Crew, they're saying that, listen, sales are not good whatsoever. They're down 12% in the third quarter. They're going to be worse probably in the fourth quarter. We're not going to be able to keep things going and moving along here. We're going to be closing 50 more stores. And I think we're going to see a lot more retailers come out and say, you know something, we just didn't have a good Christmas, a good holiday season, and we're going to start closing some stores here. We've seen a lot of stores close since the beginning of the year, and I think it's going to continue on as we move forward. We see already that just 10 companies account for 33% of all market gains. Now, what's very interesting is why would PE rise at a time when the Fed is tightening? Now, SocGen speculated, assuming that analysts have not factored tax reform into their earnings forecasts, tax reform expectations have been the driver of PE expansion. Now, there is a problem with this. While the S&P 500 index rate is currently around 26.6%, assuming that the U.S. companies generate around 43% of their profits abroad and pay 35% of their U.S. profits on taxes. The average tax rate outside the U.S. would be around 15.5%. A decrease in the U.S. tax from 35 to 20%, as planned by Trump's tax reform, would thus theoretically boost earnings by 8.5%. The 12-month forward PE has risen by 12% over the last 12 months. In other words, roughly 150% of Trump's tax cuts have been priced in. Now, SocGen calculated that 10 contributors of the S&P 500's bull run have accounted for 33% of the S&P 500 performance. Now, tying everything together, the bank also points out that all of the companies listed below have seen their PE expand over the last 12 months. In some cases, Walmart, Boeing, Amazon have dramatically increased their PE. In fact, only 3 companies, Apple and 2 banks, have 12-month PEs that are below the market average. So when we're looking at this, we have to wonder what is going on here. And I think there's a lot of manipulation. I think there's a lot that we don't know behind the scenes. And again, when things start to crash and fall apart, this is when the truth starts to really come out. We see the U.S. PMI has tumbled to 4-month lows, which signals around a 2% GDP growth. And remember, GDP has been manipulated. They've gone all the way back to 1929, included research and development, and manipulated GDP numbers even further than that. And we can see that a lot of the GDP, about 70% of it, is made up of retail spending. Now, if retail is doing poorly, how are these GDP numbers moving up? We also know that healthcare, and of course with Obamacare, that really boosted GDP because as premiums go up, guess what? So does GDP. So we also see that flash U.S. service business activity, well, that hit a low, a 4-month low. We see U.S. manufacturing PMI, it's at a 2-month low. U.S. manufacturing output is at a 2-month low, and we're starting to see that things aren't going as well as everyone thinks. Now, we understand that we have a lot of debt, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And when we look at the debt here in the United States, we can see that the gross national debt in the U.S. hit around $20.5 trillion, or 105% of GDP. But when we look at Japan, their national debt is around 250% of GDP. But whose debt bubble is going to burst first? Well, China is now where Japan was before its credible bubble blew up in the early 90s. But guess what? Canada rules. Their private sector debt in Canada has more than doubled from $2.2 trillion in 2006 to $4.5 trillion. And private sector debt as a percent of GDP has soared to 217%. And guess what? This is within a hair of where Japan was in the third quarter of '93 before the credit bubble imploded. So who's going to be first? It looks like Canada is leading the pack right now. Now, everyone's out there saying, well, yeah, we see a lot of debt. We see that the economy is not doing well. But we also see the manipulation, and I think the central bank can keep this going forever. Well, a lot of people said that back in 2008, where they thought everything was going to continue on forever. And actually, back then, everyone believed the illusion that everything was great. We've been looking at everything right now. We know that things are not going well. We know that inflation is starting to creep up. Everything behind the scenes of what the Fed and the government is telling us, we see that things are really breaking down very quickly. Now, I know we have the crypto market, we have the gold market, and people are saying, forget about gold, let's go to crypto. I think all of these are important in their own way, where crypto, which is an electronic form of currency, which I believe will be great for decentralization. It will take the power away from the Fed if they don't get their hands around it. And I think it puts the creation of currency back into the people's hands. And plus, it's electronic, so it's very easy to use around the world. And no one is dependent on a centralized system. I also think gold, silver, and other precious metals are very good to have. I mean, there are many reasons why gold is very good. It's tangible with inherent value. There's no counterparty risk. It's a store of value, and it's been a store of value for a very long time. It's a long-term inflation hedge. It has a 6,000-year history, a 2,500-year track record as money. It's a safe haven, and it's portable anonymous wealth, where you can take these gold coins, the physical bars, and you don't have to, nobody can really track this. It's very difficult to track, and you can move it from one area to another. Plus, it's universally accepted in all different areas. And yes, when you purchase gold, the Fed and the governments, they might write it down, but if you get it in smaller denominations, they have no clue that you have it. If you get silver, they really don't have any idea that you have this. And this is why they would like to go to an electronic form of their currency. And I'm not talking about cryptocurrency. Unless they come up with their coin and they force everyone to use it, they can track everyone. But they like to use electronic version of their currency because it makes it very easy for them to sanction you. It makes it very easy to track all your purchases because you're using your debit card or your credit card. And we see right now that there's reasons to have gold, there's reasons to have cryptocurrency, because depending on the situation, you're going to need both. And we see that the situation is changing very rapidly. I mean, think about this. Out in the Middle East is changing. We know China, Russia, and many of the Asian countries, they're buying into the One Belt, One Road system, the Silk Road system. And we see that Turkey, Iran, Russia, India, Syria, well, they're all going to be part of this new system. Now, Syria is the key to the economic integration of the Eurasia through energy and transportation connections. Syria will have a direct link to Europe, and this is why Russia has stepped in. This is why they wanted to remove the Islamic State from there. And we know that the cabal wanted to build a gas pipeline through Syria and supply gas throughout Europe. Control Syria, get to Iran, lock down their natural resources like oil, use the petrodollar on oil. But we see right now that a stable Syria is crucial to China, Russia, India, Iran. So they can build the Belt and Road and everything will be connected. It's almost like Syria is a hub to all of this. And we see right now that things are rapidly changing in the economic system. And the thing is, will the United States be a part of this? And I think slowly but surely the United States will have to be a part of this, because if we're left out in the cold, we're not going to survive that long. And we're going to have major, major problems here, because right now the United States manufactures a very little bit. I think we're going to need a lot of trading partners. I think we're going to need to be part of this Silk Road system to maintain and continue on with our economy. And once the United States is no longer the reserve currency of the world, this is when everything starts to change. This is when our way of life starts to change. This is when the value of the currency starts to change. This is when we need to manufacture. This is when we need to create trade with other partners. This is when we can't sanction countries to force them into doing other things. And we can see the economic system is rapidly changing, and it's accelerating right now, and everything is going to change very, very quickly in the year of 2018, and we're going to see major changes all over the place. And this is why everyone needs to be ready and prepared, because the economy, first of all, is ripping itself apart. Everything is deteriorating, and pretty soon the everyday person is going to start to really notice that things aren't going as well as the corporate media, as the Fed, the government is saying, that things are really breaking down very, very quickly. And we can see once that starts to happen, people are going to panic. People are going to say, what's going on here? And things are going to break down. And this is why you need to be ready and prepared for that time. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.